Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera, anda sedang menonton Agenda Awani dan saya kerap membincangkan tentang pendidikan dalam siri perbincangan di sudut pandang sebelum ini dan kini di Agenda Awani, dan itu tidak dapat kita pisahkan daripada pelbagai aspek lain dalam kehidupan. Dan kali ini dalam episod ini saya gembira kerana saya boleh mencantumkan atau menggabungkan pembangunan teknologi, terutamanya teknologi maklumat dan juga arena pendidikan. Oleh itu saya amat berterima kasih kerana saya ada dua pakar untuk membincangkan perkara ini. Seorang yang begitu pakar dalam bidang pendidikan, seorang lagi begitu pakar dalam bidang teknologi dalam aspek pendidikan. Dan oleh itu saya akan memperkenalkan tamu saya, Jonathan Hume, pengarah jualan antarabangsa Schoology. Kita akan cakap apa itu Schoology selepas ini. Kita juga ada Dr. Iskandar Rizal Hamzah, pengurusi Cempaka School. Terima kasih kerana datang. Oleh itu saya nak bermula dalam bahasa Inggeris. I'd like to welcome Jonathan Hume. Don't worry, I was just talking about all the good things about you. Of course, you have to trust me on it. But maybe I was just saying that on this show we have always been discussing about education, but it gives me a great opportunity today to speak about technology and education, especially ICT in it, because we do know that in the 21st century we can't be going at it like we have done it in the past. However, there's a lot of considerations, there's a lot of gaps, the have and the have nots. But I guess at the end of the day, technology is there to make things better and simpler. So I would like to start on that note before I go to Dr. Iskandar, because I know the great name of Cempaka already, but I'm going to go to Jonathan first. And I understood that this was a few years ago, and you know, group of people from Cempaka went all the way, flew thousands of miles just to find you, right, and what you have. So it must be precious indeed. So if you can share with us what Schoology is and why is it such an important tool for the education.
Yeah, I think really where the thought process, Schoology was founded in 2009 and then was actually a released product in 2010. What we really saw historically in education technology, a lot of these systems had become file repositories, or they weren't very engaging. Yeah. You ultimately are logging in, grabbing information, and logging out. And what we really wanted to focus on was creating a community, especially leveraging these social media or social communication tools outside of being used outside of a school or even an organization. We wanted to bring it into a very secure academic setting and create this community, not only within your own environment, but also a global education community. Being able to connect Cempaka schools with schools in the US or schools in Australia, being able to share resources.
Before we go a bit deeper into it, I have this particular interesting discussion every time I go around this topic with the civil society out there, because some are saying to me that we don't need the traditional way of teaching anymore, because the students of nowadays are losing interest. They're losing interest in just listening. They want learning to be multiple actions at one time. They want to be engaged. They want to do three things while they're doing something also, you know, because they're so used to at home, they're watching TV, they're chatting with somebody, also they're downloading something else, and they're waiting for that one breakthrough of cheat to come through so they can proceed to the next game. So when they go to school, and it's not that kind of environment, so there's a big gap there. So some are saying, hey, I could just Google it up, whatever I don't know, because I know I'm very young, I could just go to a forum and chat in the social media and get some tips. So that is leveraging into education as we know it more and more. Maybe not formally, but in a lot of young people's mind. So how do you look at it before I go to the expert for the local context?
Yeah, you know, I think it should be a blend of both worlds. I think technology surrounds us at every level right now, so why not bring that into your traditional education system? Being able to leverage the knowledge from an educator, but being able to connect them and again, create this community where they have the ability to go and research from other tools, but bring it into this environment and engage at all these different levels.
So it's not just an index of syllabus or exam questions, but the moment I go into it, I want to stay in it.
Exactly.
Because it's about knowledge. It's not about, you know, syllabus and how many workbooks, sheets that I have to compile, for example. So Dr. Iskandar, I've badgered Jonathan enough. Maybe we can add in the local context, it's still public schools. We have more than 10,000. We're having a rising number of private schools coming up now, and we have big giants from overseas now coming in and buying our local education institutions. But if you have to look at it, at the end of the day, it's about that one individual, and it's about learning.
Yes.
And the most populist debate right now is about, I can't even bring my gadgets and electronic gadgets and mobile stuff to school.
Yes.
So it's like I have to leave who I am at the gates.
Yes.
And but there are critics on both sides.
Yes.
So where do you stand in it? Because you have the luxury of a private education sector to look at.
Well, I think things have evolved a great deal since we first implemented our one-to-one program. So in around 2006, we started a program where every student, every secondary school student in our school, they bring a laptop to school and they function daily with it. So we train our teachers, we train our students, and to a certain extent parents as well, in order to function properly in this sort of environment. And we find that things from 2006 to today, they look very different.
Yes.
There is a large disconnect, I think, if you were to divorce how people interact with technology at home from how they deal and learn with it in school. And this has been reflected in our practices as well. In 2006, we first started with just blogs and wikis because those were the things out there. And as the world of social media set into to Malaysia, we found that kids, their home lives, it's where they Facebook, and when Twitter came out, that's where they tweet and all that. And in school, it was very much like a file repository, like what John said just now. It's very much a one-directional sort of a communication between teachers and students, and we wanted to address this. So as the gap became more and more obvious, that's when we looked around for something that would create a seamless integration. There shouldn't be a divide anymore. We wanted it to be seamless. Learning should happen everywhere and on the same sort of platform. So that's how when we looked at Schoology, we thought, wow, this is exactly what we want. This is exactly what we needed.
What was one or two of the main criteria when you look at Schoology and say, that's it?
It was attractive. I mean, we went there. It looked like it's a social network interface. So again, we used to spend tons of time on teacher training and teaching people how to save things in the right folder and how to navigate properly. We looked at that. It was intuitive.
Okay.
And it's more than just that interface which we liked. It was also, as a school, you need to have that learning function. You need to make sure that there's that that's the power behind just a fancy interface.
Jonathan, I'm going to put you to task again because we like people flying more than 20 hours to come to our country. So I'm going to have to ask you to pick out specific examples about the abilities of Schoology from what Doctor just said, and what is it that makes it look more like WhatsApp as compared to maybe a boring adults-made instructional education system for kids. And maybe it's the other way around. This is to empower kids. Because I want to come from the perspective of the philosophy behind it must be that this is about access. This is about multiple intelligence. It cannot be a single top to bottom instructional piece, but it must be a dynamic, organically evolving setup. So that sounds a mouthful, but because you deal with all these technical stuff, we're going to put you to it to make it simple for the layman to understand right after this short break. I remember when I first had to use word processing for journalism. It was just, internet was just coming into this country, and you know, we had to use this software called WordStar. And after I type
I remember
10 pages, I only have one left, so I don't know where the other 9 went, and you know, I have to submit in the next half an hour. So this type of stuff. But we've gone long way from there. You know, that time the computers were standalone unit, not networked to anything. But nowadays, straight away as I'm typing, I can fact check, I can look at other videos, I can, you know, verify information at the same time. So it's all into one now. And I guess if we don't start that in school at an early age where we are learning to use these tools, then we have to adopt it later, and that's not seamless at all. So the new generation, if I take Howard Gardner's approach to multiple intelligence, it's not just about seeing, listening, you know, but it's also about the other intelligence that we have. So sensory receivers in a human being get more excited when you tweak from all aspects rather than just hearing or looking, for example. Here, now they're even talking about keyboards that can make smell come out from the screen, you know. So maybe you can share with us, what is it about Schoology that attracted? Of course, he had to fly more than 20 hours to get to Schoology also. So if you can pick up 2 specific examples maybe from Schoology.
I would say the first one is usability. As Rizal mentioned, when you first log in, it's you know, based on the user, right? So when you first log in, it's the ease of use, being able to get people more engaged. Our main focus is the teacher and the student. We have the administration side and we have the parent side, but our main focus is giving this and making this an extension of the teacher and the student's everyday life. So that's kind of one of the things, right when you log in. And then we were, Rizal and I are actually talking about this a little bit ago, a discussion forum. So at its core, Schoology creates a level of communication. So something as simple as me posting an assignment. Well, as a student, I can go in and ask a question, and other students can actually write back. Instead of just posting that assignment, now I'm creating this environment where I'm creating dialogues, and maybe the teacher interjects.
That's the intention in the first place.
Exactly.
Not for the question to be answered, but the process of getting the answer is maybe more important than that.
100%.
Cool.
And so I think that's one of the biggest focuses.
Where were you while I was studying? Okay. Coming back to Dr. Iskandar on that, I guess if something's so good, maybe we have to measure it by its outcome also.
Yes.
So you've been using this in the Cempaka school system for a few years now. So what kind of leaps and bounds have you seen after? You were alluding to it earlier, but maybe if you can pick out a few things, because I do have some friends and who have their children in Cempaka, and you know, sometimes they come back and say, yeah, before when he was in public school, but now in Cempaka like that. But maybe you can give a more scientific outcome of looking at benefits from Schoology.
Right. I think in terms of engagement, in terms of use itself, straight away there's a big difference from what we used to use before and now. So there are analytics attached to the platform, so we can see, you know, whether people actually log in and that sort of thing. So so the usage is very high. So there must be a reason why it's high.
You don't have to force the student. They themselves will move on to this.
It's a natural way of life. It's not something that is school, and it's not homework and all that. I mean, it's like you know, they want to find out what's happening in school. They want to find out how they're doing, you know, what exams and how to interact and all that. And that's how they do it.
So it's curriculum, it's co-curriculum, it's social at the same time.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's easy. Communication is easy. Getting access is easy. Our manuals and all that are on there as well, so that's easy. The conversation extends beyond the classroom, so it's got to do. I mean, when you want to adopt technology, you've got to think of the student, and there's all the pedagogical beliefs have got to integrate together. So how we practice this in school, you know, when you come to class, it's just not everybody sort of have their computers open and just focus on Schoology alone. When you come to class, it's face-to-face time with the teacher. That time is very precious. So you build on what you've already put onto Schoology before, and you use that face-to-face time to interact in class, human interaction.
Yes.
And what Schoology does is it extends your learning time to your time out beyond the class. So at home, and like the discussions what John was saying, right now how we've evolved as well, we allow handphones, we allow smartphones in school because that's the real world.
Yes.
And they continue this. So Schoology is available on mobile as well. They don't need a computer for this. So mobile tablets, they continue learning, they get access to stuff, they continue interacting.
So it's an app too.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's an important thing, I think, learning today. You can't get away from mobility.
So how many awards again? I know that's the Cody Awards.
Yeah, so we actually just on Monday we won 3 awards. Our focus has been K through 12, and then higher ed, and then corporation. So we actually won the best education solution overall, the best learning management system, and then the best K through 12 LMS. So we're pretty excited as well.
I'm going to now torture Dr. Iskandar after this. We have to go for the last break, but once we are back, you know, Schoology can live on its own. It doesn't have to be tied to what Cempaka is doing. So how do you look at Schoology? Because good things must be shared, and I think ICT that's the kind of thing it is, right? Social media is you know, it's social, it goes everywhere. So how do you look at Schoology beyond Cempaka? You know, maybe having partnerships with the public education system, and maybe not just looking at Malaysia, but looking at the entire world. So that's the topic for discussion after this. It's not easy to, you know, just apply technology to anything, even in broadcasting and journalism. I can testify to that. Because the first thing that me as a journalist, when I look at any system, is I want improvement to what I've already done well, for example. So value-adding things are very important. But at the same time, there are cultural issues like you can't just give a powerful tool of information communication technology and then trying to put gates onto it, because these are fundamental stuff that we need to look at. And I guess I was alluding to earlier that I want to look at the global prospect of this, but the moment we go that way, we also have to look at the value proposition, because different pockets of communities, different countries have different ways of appreciating this. Some would look at this as a very enabling tool, but some others would look at it, wow, if we put all this power in the hands of an 8-year-old or God bless us, you know, teenagers, but 13-year-olds where hormones might be raging faster than brain cells, for example, that's frightening. So how would Schoology, before I talk about going global, address all these fears? Because, you know, technology, since invention was created, have to get past this. Because sometimes it's not the practicality aspect alone, but the perception and the changes it will bring will in itself erect obstacles and barriers. So was that built into Schoology to get past these blockades, or what is it?
Yeah, and it has. We built those in. So we believe that Schoology is a very secure academic setting, therefore empowering you to teach citizenship. You know, just as your students are going out into the real world, they're going to have to engage with these technologies. So we want to bring that in and provide, you know, a teacher or an administrator, if they need to moderate a classroom, they have those tools. So we built in these different layers, but I think taking the more reactive approach instead of a proactive, we want them to understand and own this environment, and teaching these different levels of citizenship within that environment.
How do you fight this negative element that might come into the system?
One of the big things is creating roles and permissions. So Schoology is based on roles and permissions, and you allow privileges within that environment. You know, I've traveled all around the world, and being able to go in these different institutions, it's always, you know, limited in scope on those bad instances. So there are triggers in there to manage that for all your admin.
Doctor?
There's a word filter built into Schoology for that sort of thing, but I think we find as an educational institution, it's best to use it as a teaching tool. So for us, we don't have we don't set any gates.
Empower first.
Yes.
And deal with it as it happens.
Yes, and we find that we have really very, 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 very few problems because, you know, when you go on it, it is protected, so you can actually control privacy settings and you can control, you know, what they see and what goes out there. But every student has got their true identity there, so accountability is always there, and they've been, you know, they surprise us. I think students to a certain extent have behaved better than adults, you know.
I'm going to ask about conquering the world after this to Doctor, but Jonathan, what's the next step? What's the next level? What's the 2.0, 3.0, 4.0? Maybe an avatar-like world where the student can move like an icon themselves and, you know, put any picture of them in 3D and walk around. I don't know, what is it?
You know, I think there's two things. I think one is, you know, one of the first things that I saw at Schoology was really creating a global education network. Too long we've been siloed based on the school or the organization. Now we have the ability to break down those walls and barriers and connect and share resources. Again, I've traveled around the world and everyone's doing something similar. They're teaching the same environment or teaching the same substance for the most part. So being able to create those communities, but I think also being able to, the big thing in education right now on a global stage is personalized learning, differentiated instruction. And I think now we just, you know, release some new functionality where you can understand mastery or competency based on a set of standards. And then that way you can actually build out personalized learning plans for students and really differentiate the instruction.
Jonathan, if it's more personalized, I mean, the big question for parents right now, what is the interest of my kid? You know, that's the biggest question, I think, for a lot of parents and educators, because you don't want to force somebody who likes performing arts to be a biologist, and you don't want it the other way around. So would the analytics be improved and be put to artificial intelligence, for example, to really help point educators and parents to identify that?
Yes, I think the biggest thing is we're all different. We all have different personalities and we have different learning styles. So one of our big focuses right now is understanding the student or even the teacher and their different learning styles, and then being able to build off that.
I have about 30 seconds left, Doctor. How do you conquer the world with this?
I think education is about sharing right now. So we find it works with us, and I think the more it goes out there, the more partners we have in education, the more the richer everybody's learning environment.
It will organically grow and more inputs will come in.
And everybody will benefit.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thanks to you for watching. Hantarkan pandangan anda sendiri kepada pelbagai platform yang Astro Awani ada. Isu teknologi, isu pendidikan akan sentiasa panas. Jadi anda juga boleh muat turun aplikasi mudah oleh iOS dan Android untuk anda menonton rancangan seperti Agenda Awani ini secara langsung di Astro Awani. Sekian, selamat malam. Terima kasih. Jumpa lagi. Thank you so much.